Are we sure it's not through this thing?
No, there's nothing coming through that.
It's going through there, directly lined in, going out. Our internet, we have internet. I don't know why it's internet. It's clear. I just started shutting down a whole bunch of machines. Safe side. Could be Facebook. It could be something. I don't know.
It could be a whole number of things.
Yeah. And we're trying to do what we can. What we got.
We have a significant amount of people that are utilizing the internet that aren't
I
necessarily.
mean, sure. This particular machine's hardlined straight out to the internet. So.
All right.
We're good.
Back to
Which other one?
I'm going back to look at the other questions so that I can find this other screen. All right, can anybody hear us? Steve, can you hear?
Okay. Just say yes.
Liz said it's still choppy sound.
So Andrea can hear us. Hi, Jeff. We had this last time we started, and it starts fine, and then about 15, 20 minutes in, it starts to get sideways. Okay. I know that we were working on answering Sterling's question. Well, I guess before that we lost him. Let's go back to Sterling's question that if you have COVID-19 and you are staying home, when do you go to hospital? When you can't breathe? If you have a pulse oximeter that tells you below 94, you should probably go to the hospital.
Call a medical provider.
Yeah. I mean, this is a first response.
So this is Steve with Coos Bay Fire Department. As far as how long you stay home, everybody's going to be a little bit different. Some people have different underlying conditions. So putting a hard number on a pulse oximetry reading may be a little bit difficult. But I think one of the best things you can do is call either your medical provider and talk to them and tell them what your symptoms are, what's going on, and have them help you make that decision. And I believe there's also a hotline through North Bend Medical Center if you don't have a provider that they may be able to point you in the right direction with some with a plan.
So the question from our email, some of the questions that she had have already been answered, but the top one that wasn't was why wasn't the public informed about the COVID-19 case in Reedsport? Even though the case was in Douglas County, Reedsport is just north of Coos Bay. She feels that the public should have been notified.
Yeah, so that's a good point. That's a fair question. To be completely transparent with you, what I was preparing for this particular town hall last week, I was reviewing the question, and there was one question about Reedsport, where I then contacted my colleague in Douglas County and asked if there was any of the cases there in Reedsport, and he told me yes. And so that night, I let you guys know that we knew of one positive case in Reedsport.
All right. So we have a question regarding the elderly population and their ability to feel safe going to like the grocery store, go shopping, do any of those things. I had a phone call about this earlier today where the concern is those individuals that are at high risk feel they're scared to go shopping to get the essential items that they do need, but they're afraid that if they go out to get those essential items that most of the people that they will run into are not taking the precautions necessary to keep them safe. Do we have suggestions for those that may feel that they don't exactly know what to do to keep themselves safe when they go out in order to get those items?
So that's a good question, and I understand the concern. I think our grocery stores have been doing a really good job at really trying to implement the social distancing measures in the community. I think while going to the store, you need to be very cautious as to when you come back, to make sure that your hands are very well washed, that possibly whatever was touched is disinfected, and that should help a lot.
That was one of the things when I was talking to this individual was, their concern was even if they wear gloves, someone else may have touched all the things that they just touched, or they just purchased, to which my recommendation was something that Brian said the other day was probably want to disinfect the things that you just purchased because, again, you don't exactly know. You can protect you, but you can't protect everybody else. So. Katie wanted to know, so why do we have so few testing kits? Why aren't more people being tested? We currently tested 0.003% of Coos County. Do we think that is helpful? That was an interesting number.
Yes, is it Katie? Katie?
Could be Katie.
Katie?
K-A-T-Y.
Okay, so Cathy, I'm going to do it the French way. So that's a very good question. We are all with you on this one. Why no more tests? This, I think, is a question that is out of our hands. We've been, I know we're working with all of the clinics and hospitals in the community, and I know that some of them have been on back order for test kits for quite some time. Everybody wants test kits. I think, it is now, I believe, okay to say that maybe the planning with regards to how the country would handle COVID-19 might have lagged a little bit behind. We know that there were quite a few issues with the test that the CDC developed. So all of this put in one equation makes it difficult to get the test.
And also be clear, this is Brian again, over 300 tests have been performed in the county. There are 63,000 plus is the estimate for the population in the county. That is not 0.0003%. However, I definitely appreciate the concern, and we do want to broaden testing as soon as possible. And it's not just testing, right? It's a lot of the shortages. It's a lot of the shortages and everything that we've been talking about as personal and protective equipment. Part of how this has progressed from when we first found out about this virus, obviously the folks in China were impacted first. Well, a lot of the stuff that we get for our healthcare supply does originate from that region. And so if they were the ones that were hit hardest first, then obviously a lot of the things that we're currently using, they had to use en masse in order to take care of their situation, not to mention a lot of people sick, not going to work there. So, I mean, there was already going to be, just from the get-go, a concern about supply, at least in the short term, in response to the virus. So yeah, quite a variety of things that has kind of led us to where we are right now, and we're just trying to make the best of it and move forward.
All right, DJ has a question. I'm concerned over the use of hand sanitizer as I see people use it constantly, use after use. I'm aware that hand sanitizer becomes non-effective after 3 times if hands are not washed in between. I see that information not being put out there for the public to know. I have been letting people know as I see it to educate them a little on that matter. I have worked in the healthcare industry, and that is always a state question during surveys that health officials ask if they are aware of the answer. Do we have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. We would obviously prefer that people are cleaning their hands with soap and water. I think that's actually always been the guidance, that the preference is for cleaning and washing your hands often with soap and water. That the hand sanitizer is something that's used for when you're in a pinch and you don't have access to soap and water, like if you're out in public and you've just been in a store and you want to get out to your car and you don't have that access, but you don't also want to touch your steering wheel or a lot of other things. If you have hand sanitizer, that works. That's just an example. But I think it's been pretty consistently communicated that soap and water, 20 seconds, has been primary guidance that we've given for washing your hands and trying to stay safe.
We're going to circle back to Tom asked in our other video before it cut out. He was asking about checking on making sure essential or employees at essential businesses were adhering to social distancing. I don't remember. I think, were you answering that one?
Yeah. So Tom, thanks for the question. So what I was saying is that we have a team of nurses who've been reaching out to a lot of folks throughout the community to really offer infection prevention and control recommendations and offer ourselves as a resource. So if you're willing to let me know offline of those essential businesses that you might have come in contact with or you may be thinking about, I'll be happy to task the team with outreaching to them.
Melissa said that her test, she was told that it was being sent to Seattle or California, and would be 7 to 12 days for results. The results came back in 5 days, but her question is, why are tests being sent so far away?
That's a great question. That this situation has kind of brought to the public's attention is kind of lab infrastructure of our country, and we certainly understand kind of some of the concerns about the delays, but once the commercial laboratories like Quest and LabCorp and some of these other entities became available, keep in mind that this is actually common day-to-day use of lab transit, and I can tell you that getting a sample up to, say, a Seattle or down to California to the lab that's going to process it is not like sending it via regular mail. It actually does not take very long to transit there, and sometimes arrives through a dedicated courier system to arrive, less than 24 hours sometimes after it's shipped. So the bulk of the time that it takes to get a turnaround response is really simply just the amount of time it takes as far as how many tests are in queue and how many tests can perform over a given day. Not transit. Transit is not the issue.
Sterling was replying to Tom's regarding, like, what about the food handling, social distancing, like how do food handlers, I don't know if he's talking about grocery or if he's talking about if you order
Deli.
at a restaurant, like drive-through or takeout.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good opportunity to talk about food handling here in a minute. But first, I'll kind of directly answer the question. I think it's certainly valid that everyone is concerned about any mode of transmission. In terms of the food itself, there's not a whole lot showing us that there are transmissions occurring with food as the vehicle. Now, of course, the containers or there's a variety of different potential touch points when you're exchanging food and currency. But yeah, I mean, we're certainly looking at every potential mode of transmission. I mean, just going for a coffee place now, a lot of places I see now are, they're being very careful about the amount of common items that are being touched, as far as how they take your credit card now or, whatever. I think they definitely understand the importance of reducing as much common item touch transmission as possible. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about foodborne illness. All right, so there's in the situation we're in right now, with the lack of in dining in restaurants with people that are maybe cooking a little bit more at home than they're used to. as a public service announcement, please be very, very careful about how you prepare food, especially if you do not have a lot of experience with that. We certainly don't want a whole bunch of people getting foodborne illness and getting it up to the ER that way. Please be very careful about how you're preparing food. You want something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that one of our roles in public health is to license restaurants and food service facilities, and our team has been working, otherwise known as the environmental health program, has been working really diligently with all of the restaurants are still in operation in the community to make sure that their questions are answered and that they are practicing the best food practices they can.
Jeff wants to know, the only testing processing site is the OHA lab, or no private labs in the state?
No, that's not what I said. I'd say some of the largest commercial labs, when they came online, they do process tests outside the state, but there are other, I believe there's a couple of hospitals that are processing their own labs instead of sending them off. That is not the case locally here in Coos County, but there are other sources of the state public health lab. And again, I would just reiterate the fact that trans is not the issue that we're dealing with here. It's not. So I hope that alleviates any concerns.
Melissa said she drove by 2 Coos Bay fast food restaurants and people were going in to order. I thought curbside and takeout only was for every restaurant.
So, if I understand correctly, the lobby can be used briefly as long as social distancing can be in effect, as long as they're just going in to order and then being handed food and leave. So yeah.
We're cutting out again.
I guess the good thing about that is we're almost done. All right, well, we don't actually have any more questions. We have answered questions we answered questions in the emails. So I'm going to, we're going to wrap this up, burn the computers, and see what we can do next week. Thank you for joining us, if you can still hear us, and we hope that you will submit more questions via the email address, COVID-19.questions chw.cos.or.us. The second longest email in history. So we will see you next week.